If your 2026 tax return is still not filed, July 29th could be the day more than $1,123.17 quietly disappears from your monthly retirement income. That is the maximum guaranteed income supplement, or GIS, for a single low-income senior for July to September 2026. And even if you do not receive GIS, one misunderstanding about your July deposit could leave you thinking you got a bonus when you did not. Or worse, missing a reduction you should have caught right away. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what should show up in your account on July 29th, what part comes from the Canada Pension Plan, or CPP, what part comes from Old Age Security, or OAS, how the clawback works, and what to check this weekend so you're not guessing after the money lands. First, let's clear up the biggest misconception. The July 29th deposit is not a special summer bonus. It is not a surprise extra payment from Ottawa. It is your regular monthly payment date, and according to the official Government of Canada benefits calendar, CPP and OAS are both scheduled for July 29th, 2026. But here is what most people miss. July is still one of the most important months of the year because 3 different rules can collide in the same deposit. Your CPP arrives on its normal schedule. Your OAS is reviewed for the new July to September quarter, and if you receive GIS, Service Canada recalculates it using your 2026 income. Service Canada is the federal department that administers these benefits. So when seniors tell me, "My deposit changed and I have no idea why," July is often the month that exposes the answer. Let's start with CPP because this is usually the steady part of the picture. CPP stands for Canada Pension Plan. It is based on how much you contributed during your working years, for how long you contributed, and the age when you started your pension. The standard starting age is 65. You can start as early as 60 or as late as 70. If you start before 65, your payment is reduced by 0.6% for each month early, up to a maximum reduction of 36% at age 60. If you wait past 65, your payment increases by 0.7% for each month you delay, up to 42% more at age 70. For 2026, the maximum new CPP retirement pension at age 65 is $1,507.65 a month. The average new retirement pension for April to June 2026 is $925.35. So if your own CPP is nowhere near the maximum, that does not automatically mean something is wrong. Think about Margaret from Winnipeg, age 67. She worked 38 years for a school board and started CPP at 65. She paid into the plan for a long time, but not every year at the maximum earnings level. Her CPP is solid, but it is not the full $1,507.65. That is normal. Now compare her with Paul from St. John, age 70, who delayed CPP because he had part-time consulting income in his 60s. His monthly amount is permanently higher because he waited. Same country, same program, very different result. And here is the key point for July 29th. Unless you recently changed your tax withholding or had another adjustment added, your CPP amount in July should look very similar to June. CPP does not get recalculated every July based on last year's tax return. So if your deposit changes sharply, your first question should not be, did CPP change? It should be, what happened on the OAS or GIS side? Now let's move to OAS because this is where many people get tripped up. OAS stands for Old Age Security. Unlike CPP, it is not based on your payroll contributions. It is a government pension funded from general tax revenue, and the amount is reviewed every January, April, July, and October to reflect inflation. For July to September 2026, the maximum OAS amount is $751.97 a month for people aged 65 to 74. If you are 75 or older, the maximum is $827.17. That higher 75 plus amount reflects the permanent 10% increase added for older seniors. So if you are 74 in June and turn 75 later on, your payment can change for a very specific reason. But here is the surprise. OAS can go up with inflation, but it can also be reduced if your income is too high. That reduction is often called the OAS clawback. A clawback simply means the government recovers part of your benefit as your income rises above a set threshold. For the July 2026 to June 2027 recovery period, the official OAS recovery tax threshold is $93,454 of 2025 net world income. Net world income is the income measure used for the test, and the Canada Revenue Agency, or CRA, is the tax agency that processes the return behind that number. If your income is above $93,454, you repay 15 cents of OAS for every dollar over the threshold. That is the clawback. If your 2025 income was $100,000, The amount over the threshold is $6,546, and 15% of that is $981.90 for the year. Spread over 12 months, that is about $81.83 less OAS each month. For ages 65 to 74, OAS is fully eliminated at $152,062. For ages 75 and over, it is fully eliminated at $157,923. So if your July deposit is lower, but you sold an investment, took a large RRIF withdrawal, or had a strong income year in 2025, this is one of the first places to look. Let me give you another example. David from Kelowna is 72 and widowed. Last year, he sold a rental property and his 2025 income jumped well above his usual level. He was thrilled with the sale, but he did not realize it could affect his OAS a year later. On July 29th, his deposit looks smaller than expected, and he assumes Service Canada made an error. But here is what most people miss. The system may simply be applying the new clawback based on the number from his tax return. That does not mean David did anything wrong. It means the timing caught up with him. If you had a one-time income spike in 2025, do not be shocked if July 2026 is the month you finally feel it in your monthly cash flow. Now we come to GIS, which is often the most sensitive part of the deposit for lower income seniors. GIS stands for Guaranteed Income Supplement. It is an extra monthly payment for seniors who receive OAS and have low income. For July to September 2026, the maximum GIS for a single senior is $1,123.17 a month if annual income is under $22,800. If you have a spouse or common law partner who also receives full OAS, the maximum GIS is $676.09 each when the couple's combined income is under $30,096. But here is the part that matters most this weekend. GIS is recalculated each July based on the previous calendar year's income. In other words, your July 2026 GIS is tied to what was on your 2025 tax return. That is why filing on time matters so much. If the return is missing, late, or not fully processed, GIS can be reduced or even stopped until the file is updated. Consider Rose from Sudbury, age 68, who worked part-time at a pharmacy until late 2025 and then stopped. Her income dropped this year, but GIS for July still starts with what Service Canada sees from 2025. If 2025 was a higher income year than 2024, her new GIS could come in lower, even though life feels tighter right now. On the other hand, if someone retired during 2025 and their income fell, July can actually bring a larger GIS payment than June. That is why one senior can feel relieved on July 29th, while another feels blindsided. The same rule can move in both directions. And if you are married or living common law, both tax returns matter. Service Canada makes that very clear. In many couples, one spouse files quickly and the other delays, and then both people wonder why the benefit does not look right. So what should you actually do before July 29th arrives? First, make sure your direct deposit and banking details in My Service Canada account are correct. My Service Canada account is the federal online portal where you can view your payment information, monthly amounts, tax slips, and personal details. Second, if you receive GIS, make sure both you and your spouse or common law partner have filed 2025 tax returns. Third, know your own June numbers before July arrives. I always tell retirees to look at the last deposit before a major review month. If you do not know what you received in June, it becomes much harder to spot whether July is a normal update or a problem. And here is another small step that saves stress. If you had an unusual 2026 income event, like a big RRIF withdrawal, property sale, or part-time work, remind yourself now that July could look different for a valid reason. Once the deposit arrives, slow down and read it like a detective. Do not just look at the total and move on. If your CPP is the same and OAS is slightly higher, that may simply reflect the new July quarter amount. If your OAS seems lower than expected, think about the clawback. If your total changed a lot and you receive GIS, compare that against your 2026 income situation. If something still does not make sense, log in to My Service Canada account and check the payment details there. If you believe the tax side is the issue, remember that the return flows through CRA first and then affects Service Canada benefits. If you believe the benefit itself is wrong, contact Service Canada and ask for the calculation to be explained. You are allowed to ask questions, you are allowed to request a review, and you do not have to accept confusion as if it were normal. One more thing, some viewers in Quebec receive the Quebec Pension Plan, or QPP, instead of CPP. The broad lesson in this video still applies. Know which benefit is changing, know which income year is being used, and do not assume a same-day deposit means extra money. The real danger is not that July 29th exists. The real danger is that you treat it like any other month when, for many seniors, it is the month that reveals a missed tax filing, a new clawback, or a GIS recalculation that changes the family budget for the next 12 months. That is why I want you calm, not alarmed. When you know the rules, you make better decisions and you spot problems faster. If you remember just one thing from today, let it be this. July 29th is not important because it is dramatic. It is important because it is revealing. It tells you whether your CPP stayed steady, whether your OAS reflects the new quarter, and whether your GIS or clawback changed based on your 2026 income. Take 10 quiet minutes this weekend, confirm your tax filing is done, check your My Service Canada account, and go into deposit day with your eyes open. If this kind of clear Canadian retirement update helps you feel more in control, subscribe and join me for the next video where I'll walk through the most common OAS and GIS mistakes that start with one innocent line on a tax return. You have worked too hard for this money to leave it to guesswork.